I expected the human to fail quietly during the entrance exam. Instead, she melted our systems and solved problems the galaxy abandoned decades ago. So, let me tell you about the day I realized that 300 years of administrative experience meant absolutely nothing. My name is Corthan Vel, and I have been the Dean of Admissions at the Zenith Galactic Academy for longer than most species have had interstellar travel. I have seen it all, or so I thought, until a human walked through my door and made me question every single decision I had ever made in my long distinguished career. The Zenith Galactic Academy, if you are not aware, and you really should be, is the most prestigious educational institution in 7 galaxies. We do not just accept anyone. Our rejection rate hovers around 99.7%. We have produced 214 galactic counselors, 47 scientific revolutionaries, and 1 individual who accidentally created a new form of matter while trying to make coffee. That last one was not supposed to happen, but it still counts as an achievement. Our campus floats in a manufactured pocket dimension. Because of course it does. Only the best for the best, right? The buildings are made from crystallized starlight. The libraries contain original text from civilizations that went extinct before most current species evolved. And our cafeteria, and I am not making this up, offers food from 6,000 different worlds. The waiting list to even apply is typically 7 years long. So when the Galactic Council in their infinite wisdom decided to implement a cultural diversity initiative that included accepting transfer applications from newly contacted species, let us just say the faculty meeting that followed lasted 4 days, and required mediation from a professional conflict resolution team. Humans. They wanted us to consider humans. Do you know what we knew about humans at that point? They had barely left their own solar system. They still used combustion engines for recreational purposes. Their idea of advanced mathematics included something called calculus that our students learn in primary school. They had wars, actual physical wars, over resources they could have simply synthesized. They were, by every measurable standard, adorable little primitives playing with rocks and sticks. But the council insisted, and when the council insists, you smile, you nod, and you prepare to process paperwork for someone who will inevitably fail out within the first semester. The application arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are usually quiet, and I enjoy my quiet. The file was remarkably thin compared to our typical candidates. Elena Voss, 23 Earth years old, which translated to approximately juvenile status by our standards. Education from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which sounded like something you would name a facility for teaching children basic shapes. Her test scores were, well, they existed. That is the kindest thing I could say. Her personal essay was exactly 1 sentence long. I like solving problems that other people think are impossible. I actually laughed. Out loud. In my office. Alone. My assistant, a very efficient Quarksian named Brell, poked his head through the door. Sir, is everything all right? Oh, everything is fine, I said, wiping a tear from my eye. Well, one of my eyes anyway. I am just reading the application from our human transfer candidate. This should be entertaining if nothing else. Brell's scales shifted to a concerned purple color. The faculty are already upset about this, Dean Vel. Perhaps we should. I do not know. Prepare them. Prepare them for what? A student who will wash out in 3 weeks? Let them have their fun. They need something to complain about anyway. Keeps them sharp. That was mistake number 1. Assuming I knew what was coming, Elena Voss arrived on campus exactly 1 week later, carrying a single bag and wearing what I can only describe as aggressively casual clothing, fabric pants, a shirt with some kind of faded text on it, and footwear that looked designed for running away from predators. While every other species showed up in formal academic attire or traditional cultural garments, this human looked like she had just rolled out of bed and wandered into one of the galaxy's most elite institutions by accident. The other candidates stared. Oh, how they stared! There was Zelith, a Corthonian prince whose species had mastered quantum physics before developing written language. He looked at Elena like she was a mildly interesting bacteria sample. There was Zara Ko, a Velnari whose brain operated in 7 dimensions simultaneously. She actually tilted her head, confused, as if trying to process why this creature was even present. There was Tom Ricks, a crystalline being whose body literally hummed with mathematical precision. He made a sound that I can only describe as a laugh, mixed with a scoff. And then there was Elena, completely unbothered, looking around at the crystallized starlight architecture with mild appreciation, the way you might notice a pretty flower on your way to somewhere more important. Welcome, candidates. I announced from the podium in the Grand Hall, my voice amplified by harmonic resonators. You stand in the Zenith Galactic Academy, the pinnacle of education, the summit of academic achievement, the place where the brightest minds in existence come to be forged into something even brighter. Most of you will fail. This is not an insult. This is statistics. Nervous shifting from most of the candidates. Elena yawned. Actually yawned. The entrance examination will begin in 1 hour. You will be tested on theoretical physics, applied mathematics, spatial reasoning, temporal mechanics, combat efficiency, strategic thinking, and creative problem solving. The examination has a pass rate of 8%. Good luck. As the candidates filed out, I heard whispers. So many whispers. Did you see the human? I heard they still think in 3 dimensions only. My hatchling has more advanced cognitive development. This is going to be embarrassing to watch. I should have paid attention to Elena's face during those whispers. She was smiling, not a nervous smile, not an embarrassed smile, but the smile of someone who had heard that kind of talk before and knew exactly how it was going to end. That was mistake number 2, thinking I understood what that smile meant. The examination hall could accommodate 500 candidates comfortably. We had 47. Each station was equipped with holographic interfaces, quantum processors, and adaptive difficulty algorithms designed by the finest educational technologists in the galaxy. The examination would adjust to each candidate's ability level, providing challenges that pushed them to their absolute limit without being impossible. In 300 years, only 2 candidates had ever maxed out the difficulty settings. Elena sat down at Station 33, cracked her knuckles, which made several nearby candidates flinch at the bizarre popping sound human joints apparently make, and said, "All right. Let's see what you've got." The exam began, and that is when everything I thought I knew about humans, about Earth, about primitive species, and about my own judgment began to crumble like a sandcastle in front of a tsunami. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what happened next. The Zenith entrance examination is not just difficult. Difficult would be an insult to what we have created. This exam has made prodigies weep. It has caused geniuses to question their entire existence. We once had a candidate from Methros Prime, a species with perfect memory and the ability to process information at computer speeds, who finished the exam and then requested psychological counseling. The exam adapts, you see. It learns. The moment you answer a question correctly, it analyzes your methodology, identifies your strengths, and then constructs the next question specifically designed to exploit your weaknesses. It is beautiful. Really, in a sadistic kind of way. Section 1 was theoretical physics. Standard stuff, really. Questions about the nature of reality, the mathematics underlying dimensional barriers, the relationship between consciousness and quantum states. Light reading material. I watched from the observation deck with the other proctors. We had holographic displays showing each candidate's progress, their stress levels monitored through biometric sensors, their answer patterns analyzed in real time. Zelith, the Corthonian prince, was performing exactly as expected, brilliant, methodical, approaching each problem with the kind of precision his species was famous for. His display showed green across the board, comfortable, competent, exactly what we wanted to see. Zara Ko was operating in her usual manner, which is to say her answers appeared almost before the questions finished loading. 7-dimensional thinking has its advantages. Her biometrics showed barely elevated stress. Excellent. Tomrix was humming, literally humming, as he worked. Mathematical harmonics resonated through his crystalline structure. Each answer produced a different tone. It was actually quite pleasant. And then there was Elena at Station 33. Her biometrics were, well, they were weird. Her heart rate, and yes, humans apparently only have one heart, which seems terribly inefficient, was barely elevated. Her brain activity showed patterns our sensors were not quite sure how to interpret, and she was moving through questions at a pace that seemed frankly reckless. "She is guessing," said Proctor Yilmaz, a 6-armed hexaran who had been administering this exam for 60 years. "Look at her speed. No one can solve quantum dimensional proofs that quickly. She is just selecting random answers." I pulled up Elena's answer history. Question 1, correct. Question 2, correct. Question 3, correct. Question 4. Wait, that could not be right. Yilmaz, look at question 4. He leaned in, his primary eyes narrowing. That is, no, wait, is that, did she just solve the Viridian paradox? Apparently so. but we only included that as a theoretical discussion question. There is no solution. It has been unsolved for 400 years. On the screen, Elena had moved on to question 5. Her solution to the Viridian paradox sat there, elegant and simple, mocking 4 centuries of failed attempts by the galaxy's greatest minds. Maybe it is wrong, Yilmaz suggested hopefully. I ran it through verification. The algorithm churned for a moment, then confirmed. Not only was it correct, it was provable, and it opened up 3 new fields of study we had not even considered. Well, I said slowly. That is. Section 2 began 15 minutes later. Spatial reasoning. This is where most candidates started to struggle. The questions required visualizing objects in up to 11 dimensions simultaneously, rotating them through non-Euclidean space, and predicting their interactions with theoretical constructs that did not exist in normal reality. It sounds complicated because it is complicated. Zelith's display started showing yellow indicators, stress levels rising. He was slowing down, taking more time per question. Still passing, still excellent, but clearly being challenged. Zarako continued her 7-dimensional steamrolling of the exam, though even she had paused on question 18, a particularly nasty problem involving recursive spatial folding. Tom Ricks's humming had become slightly discordant. A bad sign. Elena finished question 18 before Zara did. Okay, that is just not possible, declared Proctor Shen, a Nalvari observer whose species literally evolved to detect impossibilities in spacetime. Humans think in 3 dimensions, maybe 4 if you count time linearly, which, let us be honest, is barely counting. She cannot be visualizing 11-dimensional objects. And yet, I gestured at the screen where Elena's answer sat. Perfectly correct. She appears to be doing exactly that. Elena stretched in her chair, rolling her shoulders in a way that made her joints pop again. Several nearby candidates lost their concentration and had to restart their current problems. She did not seem to notice or care. She just cracked her neck, which made an even more disturbing sound, and moved on to the next question. The exam's adaptive difficulty algorithm was now doing something I had never seen before. It was escalating rapidly, jumping difficulty levels faster than standard progression allowed. It was, if I did not know better, getting desperate. Question 25 appeared on Elena's screen. I recognized it immediately. It was the same question that had stumped me on my entrance exam 300 years ago. It took me 4 hours to solve. It was widely considered one of the hardest spatial reasoning problems ever constructed. Elena read it, tilted her head slightly, and I swear I could see the moment she understood it. Her eyes, those strange human eyes with their limited visual spectrum, seemed to focus on something beyond the screen. 45 seconds later, she entered her answer. Correct. Is anyone else seeing this? I asked the observation deck at large. Silence. Complete, total silence. Every proctor was staring at their displays like they had just witnessed a fundamental law of physics being casually violated. Yilmaz cleared his throat. Dean Vel, the exam algorithm is requesting supervisor override. Override? For what? It wants permission to exceed standard difficulty parameters. It is saying, and I am reading this directly from the system log, that the candidate has, quote, broken the normal assessment curve and requires non-standard evaluation protocols. I looked at the exam timer. We were 32 minutes into a 4-hour examination. Elena had finished sections 1 and 2, with perfect scores, and she looked bored. Grant the override, I said quietly. Sir, if we exceed standard parameters, we cannot guarantee the exam will remain, well, safe. Safe? The higher difficulty levels involve actual physical manifestations, energy constructs, temporal distortions. We have never activated them during a first-tier examination before. I watched Elena on the monitor. She was looking around the exam hall with that same mild interest, like a tourist who had finished viewing one museum exhibit and was ready to move on to something more engaging. Grant the override, I repeated. Let us see what this human can actually do. That was mistake number 3. And honestly, I should have known better by then. The exam algorithm accepted the override with what I can only describe as malicious glee. Section 3 initialized. And that is when things got really interesting. Section 3 was where candidates typically broke down completely. Not just academically, mind you, but physically and psychologically. The combat simulation arena materialized around the examination hall, holographic walls shimmering into existence, creating individual battle zones for each candidate. The test was simple in concept. horrifying in execution, survive against adaptive combat drones while solving tactical problems under pressure. Oh, and the gravity would shift randomly, and the environment would actively try to kill you. And you had to maintain mental calculations throughout because why not? Let us just pile on the pressure until someone cracks. Most candidates requested difficulty level 3 out of 10. The brave ones went for 5. Level 7 was considered suicidal. Luxilith chose level 5. Sensible. He was immediately beset by 3 hovering drones firing stun bursts while the floor beneath him shifted to a 45-degree angle. He handled it well, using his species' natural agility to dodge while returning fire with the provided energy weapon. Competent professional. Exactly what we expected. Zara Ko selected level 6, because of course she did. Her 7-dimensional thinking let her predict drone movements before they happened. She was less graceful than Zelith but brutally efficient. The drones did not stand a chance against someone who could see their attack patterns across multiple timelines simultaneously. Tom Ricks went for level 4, which was smart given his crystalline body structure. Mobility was not his strength, but his mathematical precision allowed him to calculate exact trajectory solutions. Every shot he fired hit its target. Pure geometry in action. And then the system prompted Elena, select difficulty level, 1 through 10. The observation deck held its collective breath. Surely she would choose something reasonable. Level 3, maybe 4 if she was overconfident. Humans were supposed to be fragile, right? Soft skin, single heart, pathetically limited reaction times. Elena looked at the prompt, looked at the other candidates struggling in their arenas and said loud enough for the audio pickups to catch, "Yeah, I will take maximum." "I am sorry," Yilmaz said, leaning forward. Did she just say maximum? Level 10 initialized. The arena around Elena erupted into absolute chaos. 15 combat drones materialized simultaneously, each one configured for lethal force. The gravity shifted to 3 times standard, enough to make most species collapse under their own weight. The floor became a maze of moving platforms over a pit that crackled with actual electricity, not simulated actual electricity. We had only activated level 10 twice in the Academy's history, both times for candidates with advanced military backgrounds and species-specific advantages like armor plating or redundant organ systems. Elena dropped into a crouch as the gravity slammed down, and for a moment I thought we were about to witness the first candidate death in 70 years. I was already preparing the incident report in my head. Then she moved. I do not have better words for it. She just moved. 3 drones fired simultaneously at her previous position. She was not there anymore. She had rolled, come up firing, and 2 drones exploded before the third could recalibrate. The energy weapon in her hands looked like a natural extension of her body, like she had been born holding it. "What in the spiral galaxies?" whispered Proctor Shen. Elena jumped, and in 3 times normal gravity, she still cleared 2 meters, grabbed a passing platform, used it to swing herself into a position where 5 drones had converged, and fired in a spread pattern that turned all 5 into sparking debris. Her face was not showing strain. She was not grimacing in pain. She was smiling. The gravity shifted again, this time to point sideways. Everyone else in the exam hall stumbled. Zelith hit a wall hard. Zara Ko managed to compensate but lost her rhythm. Tom Ricks's humming went completely atonal. Elena pushed off the wall that had become the floor, twisted mid-air, and landed in a 3-point stance that should have been impossible for someone experiencing lateral gravity shift for the first time. 7 drones remained. "Is she laughing?" Yilmaz asked in horror. She was. Elena was actually laughing as she sprinted along the vertical wall, firing behind her without looking, trusting what I could only assume was instinct or insanity. Probably both. 3 more drones went down. The gravity reversed, pointing up. Everyone fell toward the ceiling. Elena used the momentum, tucking into a flip that brought her weapon to bear on the final 4 drones from an angle they had not anticipated. 4 shots. 4 explosions. Perfect accuracy. The timer showed 45 seconds elapsed. The previous record for level 10 completion was 8 minutes and 12 seconds. The arena dissolved. Elena landed lightly on her feet as normal gravity returned, barely breathing hard, and said to no one in particular, "Huh. That was fun. What is next?" The observation deck had gone completely silent. Every faculty member was staring at the displays like they had just witnessed a religious experience. Except the deity involved was a 5'6" human who looked like she had just finished a light warm-up routine. Dean Ryloth. head of tactical studies and a decorated military commander from the Kragnor campaigns, stood up slowly from his seat. His voice came out strangled. I need to see her physical specifications, immediately. I pulled up Elena's biological data. Standard human. No modifications, no enhancements, no genetic alterations. Just a basic human from Earth. That supposedly primitive mudball where they still used fossil fuels and argued about whether their planet was round. This is not possible, Ryloth said flatly. Humans are not built for combat. They are soft, slow, weak. We have the data. They are prey species at best. Apparently, I said, watching Elena stretch casually while waiting for the next section. Our data was incomplete. The exam algorithm sent another request. This time it was not asking for permission. It was begging us to stop. Supervisor alert, the system intoned. Candidate performance exceeds all predictive models. Standard assessment protocols. Insufficient. Request immediate intervention. What does it want us to do? Asked Yilmaz. I read the system message, then read it again to make sure I understood correctly. It wants us to shut down the exam before Elena reaches Section 4. Why? Because Section 4 involves temporal mechanics and reality manipulation. And based on her current performance curve, the algorithm has calculated a 67% chance that she will accidentally break causality. We all looked at Elena. She had found a water dispenser and was hydrating, looking completely unbothered by the fact that she had just performed what should have been physically impossible. So what do we do? Shen asked. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. We let the exam continue. I need to see how this ends. Section 4 initialized. And that is when the examination system started smoking. Section 4 was temporal mechanics and advanced reality manipulation. Let me be clear about something. This section was not designed for first-year candidates. It was barely designed for fourth-year doctoral researchers. We included it in the entrance exam purely as a formality, a box to check that said yes. We evaluated everything, even though we knew no one would pass it. The questions involved manipulating localized time fields, predicting causality violations before they occurred, and solving problems that required thinking in nonlinear temporal frameworks. It was the kind of stuff that made theoretical physicists wake up screaming. Elena's screen loaded the first question. The holographic display above her station flickered, just a brief glitch, but enough to make the technician monitoring the systems look up with concern. That is odd, Technician Vrel muttered, tapping at his console. We are getting unusual power draws from Station 33. Define unusual, I said, though I already knew the answer would not be good. On screen, Elena read the first question, which involved predicting the outcome of a grandfather paradox scenario with 17 variables and self-referential loops. It was a question designed to have no correct answer, only various degrees of philosophical interpretation. She wrote out a solution in 90 seconds. The exam algorithm paused. Actually paused, like it needed a moment to process what it was seeing. Correct, not theoretically sound, not philosophically interesting, but mathematically, provably correct. She had solved a paradox. She had found a genuine resolution to a problem that by definition should not have one. Okay, I said slowly. Okay, that is. The second question appeared. This one involved actual temporal manipulation. A small time bubble materialized in front of Elena, showing 3 possible futures simultaneously. She needed to identify which one was the true timeline and explain why the others were false branches. Most candidates stared at these bubbles for hours, getting lost in the recursive possibilities. Elena glanced at all 3, pointed at the middle one without hesitation, and provided a proof that collapsed the other timelines instantly. The time bubble destabilized and vanished. Error, announced the examination system. Causality assessment incomplete. Recalibrating. Did the exam just say error? Yilmaz asked. It did. The exam does not say error. The exam does not make errors. We make errors. The exam is perfect. Apparently not anymore. Question 3 loaded. Then question 4. Then 5, 6, 7. Elena was not just answering them. She was demolishing them. Each solution came faster than the last, and with each answer the exam system seemed to struggle more. Smoke began rising from the primary processing core. Actual smoke. Vrel, I said very calmly, why is there smoke coming from a quantum computer that operates at near absolute zero temperatures? I have absolutely no idea, sir. That should not be physically possible. The cooling systems are no. No, no, no.
What?
The system is overheating because it is trying to generate questions faster than she can answer them. It is stuck in a processing loop. Every time she solves something, the algorithm tries to create something harder, but she keeps solving those too, so it tries again, and the cycle is accelerating. The smoke was getting thicker. Shut it down, barked Proctor Shen. I cannot. The exam is locked in active mode until the candidate either fails or completes all sections. Safety protocol. Well, override the safety protocol. I am trying. The system is not accepting override commands. It is too busy trying to create a question that will actually challenge her. I looked at Elena. She had moved on to question 15, something involving reversing entropy in a closed system while maintaining temporal coherence. She solved it while drinking water, one-handed, like she was filling out a grocery list. Emergency faculty meeting, I announced. Now. 3 minutes later, the observation deck was packed with every senior faculty member we could find. Dean Ryloth was there, looking pale. Professor Quinn, from Theoretical Sciences, was holding his head in his hands. Department Head Silix, from Advanced Mathematics, was making a sound I can only describe as a whimper. We need to stop this, Quinn said immediately. She is breaking the exam. Actually breaking it. Do you understand what that means? It means she is smarter than we anticipated, I replied. No. It means she is operating at a level our systems cannot measure. Our entire assessment framework is built on the assumption that there is an upper limit to cognitive ability. She is proving that assumption wrong and our equipment cannot handle it. Look at this. Silix threw a holographic chart into the air. These are her scores across all sections. They are not just high. They are breaking the scale. The algorithm cannot compute a percentile ranking, because she has exceeded the mathematical model we use to define percentile rankings. She is not in the 99th percentile. She is in a percentile that does not exist. So, we give her a perfect score, and move on, suggested Ryloth. We cannot. Perfect score is defined as 100%. She is at, according to the last calculation before the system gave up, somewhere around 340%. How do you score that? What does that even mean? The smoke in the examination hall was now visible enough that the fire suppression systems were considering activating. We could fail her on a technicality, Shen offered weakly. Academic dishonesty. She must be cheating somehow. How? I asked. She is in an isolated examination field. No external communication. No access to outside resources. Everything she is doing is coming from inside her own head, unless you are suggesting she has somehow hidden a quantum supercomputer in her brain, which, let me check her medical scans again. No, she has not. Then what do we do? Quinn demanded. Let her continue until she accidentally creates a singularity in our examination hall. Before I could answer, alarms started blaring. Critical system failure, announced the examination AI, its usually calm voice now sounding distinctly panicked. Section 4 cannot proceed. Generating Section 5 protocols. Warning. Section 5 involves reality restructuring. Candidate performance suggests high probability of unintended dimensional breach. Recommend immediate cessation. Finally, something reasonable, Shen said. Shut it down. Wait. I held up a hand. What is she doing? On the main display, Elena had stopped. She was looking at a question that had just appeared on her screen, and for the first time since the exam began, she looked puzzled. Not frustrated. Not confused. Puzzled, like she had found something genuinely interesting. That is the Karth theorem, whispered Silix. It has been unsolved for 93 years. We only included it as a theoretical discussion piece. There is no answer. Dozens of research teams have tried. It is considered one of the fundamental unsolvable problems in advanced mathematics. Elena leaned back in her chair staring at the question. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Then 2 minutes. See? Quinn said. She has hit her limit. Finally, we can end this. Elena sat forward suddenly. And I recognized that look. I had seen it before on the faces of students who had just understood something profound. That moment of clarity when impossible becomes obvious. She started writing. Her hands moved across the holographic interface faster than I could track. Equations flowed onto the screen, each one building on the last, creating a framework of logic so elegant it was almost beautiful. She is not, Silix breathed. She cannot be. But she was. The proof came together like a puzzle clicking into place. Variables resolved. Paradoxes collapsed. The impossible became provable. Elena entered her final calculation. The examination system made a sound I had never heard before, a kind of electronic wheeze, like it was trying to process something beyond its fundamental design parameters. Then it verified her answer. Correct. The Horvath theorem. 93 years, hundreds of researchers, millions of hours of computational time, solved in 7 minutes by a human who was not even supposed to be smart enough to understand the question. The smoke pouring from the processing core turned black. Sparks started shooting from multiple terminals. Everyone out. Vrel shouted. The whole system is going to crash. Faculty members scrambled for the exits. I stayed, watching Elena, who was still sitting calmly at her station, apparently unaware that she had just broken a several million credit examination system and solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy's finest minds. She looked up at the observation deck, somehow knowing exactly where I was standing despite the one-way glass, and gave a little wave. The examination system gave one final desperate alert. Cannot compute final assessment. Candidate has exceeded all known parameters. Score undefined. Evaluation impossible. System shutting down to prevent cascade failure. Then everything went dark. In the silence that followed, broken only by the sound of cooling fans desperately trying to prevent a complete meltdown, I heard Elena's voice through the emergency backup speakers. So did I pass or what? The emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the examination hall in a dim red glow that made everything look vaguely apocalyptic, which, considering what had just happened to our supposedly indestructible examination system, felt appropriate. Maintenance crews rushed in, carrying fire suppression equipment and looking deeply concerned about the smoke still rising from what used to be the most advanced educational assessment technology in 7 galaxies. Vrel was frantically trying to salvage data from the backup systems, his forearms moving in a blur across multiple terminals simultaneously. Tell me you saved something, I said, approaching his station. Anything. I need some kind of official record that this actually happened or no one will ever believe me. I got partial logs from sections 1 through 3, Vrel replied, not looking up from his work. Section 4 is mostly corrupted, but I have her solution to the Horvath theorem. That saved automatically because the system flagged it as historically significant before it died. Section 5 never loaded, thank the stars, because based on the projected difficulty curve it would have probably torn a hole in space-time. Her final score. Undefined. Literally undefined. The system tried to calculate it 17 times before giving up. The last attempt returned a result of error. Value exceeds display parameters. Please contact your administrator assuming reality still exists. I am not sure if that last part was the system being sarcastic or having a legitimate crisis of existence. With quantum computers it can be hard to tell. The other candidates had been evacuated to a safe distance and were watching the chaos with various expressions of shock. Seleth looked like someone had just told him his entire royal lineage was a clerical error. Zarako was recalibrating her 7-dimensional perception because clearly something had gone wrong with her understanding of the universe. Tom Ricks had stopped humming entirely, which for his species was equivalent to catatonic shock. And Elena was sitting on a bench, eating something from her bag that looked disturbingly like pressed vegetation between bread slices, completely unbothered by the fact that she had just caused an academic catastrophe. I walked over to her. I did not know what I was going to say. Apologize. Congratulate. Ask her what she was, and whether Earth had secretly been running some kind of super soldier program. Dean Bell, she said before I could speak, swallowing her food. I am guessing the exam does not normally end with smoke and alarms? No, it does not. Did I break something important? You broke everything. The exam, our assessment models, our understanding of cognitive limits, and quite possibly my faith in 300 years of administrative experience. She looked genuinely apologetic. Sorry about that. I was just answering the questions. They were interesting. Especially that last one. The Horvath thing. That was actually tricky. Tricky. I repeated. You solved a 93-year-old mathematical proof in 7 minutes and you call it tricky. Well, yeah. I had to rethink some assumptions about dimensional folding, but once I realized the error was in the foundational premise, the rest clicked into place. Is that not how it is supposed to work? Behind me, I heard Professor Quen make a strangled noise. The emergency faculty meeting reconvened in what was left of the observation deck. Everyone looked shell-shocked. Dean Raylath was staring at his hands like he was questioning whether they were real. Silix was recalculating everything she thought she knew about mathematics. Shen had given up entirely and was just drinking something strong from a flask he kept for special occasions. So, I began, because someone had to. We need to discuss what just happened. What happened, Quen said slowly, is that we discovered humans are not what we thought they were. At all. Not even close. I pulled Earth's assessment files, Reloth added, throwing data into the holographic display. Initial contact surveys classified them as Category 3 intelligence, basic tool use, primitive social structures, limited scientific understanding. Someone made a terrible mistake. Or, I said, the pieces finally clicking together in my own head. Someone did not understand what they were looking at. Think about it. Earth is classified as a death world, extreme gravity compared to most habitable planets, volatile weather, geological instability, biodiversity that includes thousands of species actively trying to kill you at any given moment. What do you get when you evolve intelligence in that environment? Silence as everyone processed that. You get humans, Silik said quietly. You get a species that treats our maximum difficulty combat simulation as fun. You get problem solvers who are used to surviving impossible situations because their entire planet is an impossible situation. You get, oh stars, we have been measuring them against our standards. Standards developed on calm, stable, peaceful worlds. Earth is not a cradle of civilization, I continued. It is a training ground. Every single day of their existence is harder than our worst-case scenarios. We think 3 times gravity is a challenge. That is just a Tuesday morning for them. We think temporal paradoxes are brain-breaking. They have been dealing with paradox and chaos since before they had written language. Ryloth laughed, short and bitter. We have been calling them primitive. They have been doing advanced calculus just to calculate how to throw objects accurately in their insane gravity well. They have been running quantum probability assessments every time they try not to get eaten by their planet's wildlife. We did not realize we were looking at a species that had to be brilliant just to survive childhood. So what do we do? Shen asked. We cannot score her. We cannot evaluate her. Our entire system is built on frameworks that she has proven inadequate. We accept her, I said simply. Full scholarship, automatic admission, and we completely rebuild our assessment standards because if Elena Voss is what humans consider average, we are catastrophically unprepared for what comes next. 2 hours later, after the smoke had cleared, and the maintenance crews had declared the examination hall a total loss, I called the candidates back for the official results. Most of them had passed. Delith, Zara Ko, Tom Ricks, and 37 others had met our standards and earned admission. I congratulated each of them with genuine warmth. They had done well. Then I called Elena forward. Miss Voss, I began, and the entire hall went quiet. In 300 years of administering entrance examinations, I have never encountered a situation quite like this. Your performance today has forced us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about intelligence, capability, and the very nature of how we assess potential. She looked nervous for the first time all day. Your final score is incomputable. The system could not measure it. This means, technically, that you did not complete the examination according to standard protocols. I paused, letting that hang in the air. It also means you are the most naturally gifted candidate we have ever encountered, and it would be an act of criminal stupidity to reject you. Welcome to Zenith Galactic Academy, Miss Voss. Full scholarship, priority placement in advanced research tracks, and a formal apology from me personally for ever doubting that you belonged here. The applause was hesitant at first, then genuine. Even Zelith was clapping, though he still looked somewhat traumatized. Elena smiled. That same casual smile she had worn all day. Thanks. I am looking forward to it. Oh, and Dean Val. Yes? About that Korvath theorem solution. I was thinking about it more while waiting, and I am pretty sure it opens up applications in faster-than-light travel that nobody has explored yet. Would it be okay if I wrote a paper on that? You know, after I settle in and stuff. Professor Quen made another strangled sound. Yes, Miss Voss, I said, feeling suddenly very tired and very old. That would be fine. As the candidates filed out, chattering excitedly about their new academic careers, I stood alone in the ruined examination hall and thought about the future. Humans were coming. Not just Elena, but more of them. Brilliant, chaotic, impossible humans from their impossible death world, bringing their impossible solutions to problems we had stopped believing could be solved. We were going to need bigger examination halls, and probably more fire suppression systems. But mostly, we were going to need to completely rethink everything we thought we knew about what was possible. Because Elena Voss, that allegedly primitive human from that allegedly backward planet, had walked into our academy, broken our most advanced systems and solved problems that had stumped us for decades, all before lunch. And she had done it while making it look easy. I filed my incident report that evening. It was 17 pages long and included the phrase "recommend complete overhaul of assessment protocols and possibly our understanding of reality itself" 3 times. The Galactic Council read it and sent back a single question. Is this report accurate, or have you been exposed to hallucinogenic substances? I sent them Elena's solution to the Korvath theorem. They did not ask again. Welcome to the new era of galactic education, where humans redefine possible and the rest of us try desperately to keep up. It is going to be one hell of a ride.